Hey Central, welcome to our conversation on missions. We have some news and updates for you, and we wanted to get in front of you today. Welcome to everyone who's here. So, I'm Hannah McNeil. I am our communications director. And who else do we have here with us?
Hi, everybody. This is Mick, Senior Minister here at Central.
I'm Kevin Schaefer. I'm the worship minister at Central.
And I'm Greg Down. I'm the executive minister here at Central.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. So, to get us started, we're all going to answer a question. I want to hear in one word, what was something you did or experienced this past weekend?
Conference.
Chores.
What was that?
Chores.
Ooh.
Community.
Hamilton. I think Hamilton is more fun than chores. Sorry about that, Mick.
For sure.
Okay, so we want to talk about missions today. And if you've been around Central very long, you will know that one of the identifying characteristics of Central are missions. We really care about missions and missions involvement here. So, first of all, I want to ask you guys from a faith standpoint, why are missions so important?
I'll jump in to start the conversation. For me, the idea of joining God, participating in the work of what God is doing, is deeply forming and rewarding and powerful. I feel like when I have opportunities to kind of jump in with what God is already doing, even though I may initially think I'm giving to whatever that is, uh, most times I'm receiving far more than I give. And so it's forming, it's adventurous, and it's something that I feel like is an important part of being a disciple of Jesus.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of the solid baseline there is that God is at work locally, globally, and we join and participate in the work that God is doing through the Holy Spirit. I would say another aspect of that is by the fact that you're making yourself available and you're making yourself open to missions, is you're teaching yourself, you're shaping and wiring yourself to see the world from a different perspective, right? It breaks down kind of those tribal walls we like to create in our lives. We all do that. We're creatures of comfort and familiarity. And so exposing ourselves to different churches and different cultures and different languages and different ways of living, whether it's locally or globally, is necessary, important, and beautiful as disciples of Christ who recognize the work that God's doing in this world.
I'm not sure I can add much to that. I mean, for me, I especially the way we do missions here at Central is I love the relationship component. It's just not we're just going to give you some cash for you to do your thing. We're actually trying to be involved in lives and try to get people to do more, to volunteer, to get ingrained in those different aspects. And I just love that part. It's so transformative when you're actually doing something and with your hands and having conversations with these people. So as you're partnering together.
Well, and something that I love about how Central does missions is it's not just overseas. When we say missions, we're meaning here in Amarillo, we're meaning across the globe, other places in the US. So I think that's an important piece to this also for how we do missions here. So in the past, we've done what is called Missions Month, and that's usually during the time period of October. That's how we've done it in the past. And we've been doing that how many years? We were talking about this the other day, 12, 13 years, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, and there've been all sorts of themes. I know, Kevin, you've been super involved in the look of those themes from the past. What was one of your favorites from the past?
I think when we did the connecting, we did the giant string art, where we
Yeah, the
took
big spider web.
the big spider web, but you got these strings coming from the flags all the way up to the front, where it's kind of a heart on the state of Texas. That was just kind of the idea was pretty cool, I thought. So
Love that. Yeah, the visuals were always fun for those Missions Month times. So we're kind of making a shift. We are still focusing on missions, but now we're calling this Missions Impact. What is that, and why are we doing this?
Well, I'll speak to it first, just because I said a little something on Sunday if you're with us, but just kind of just speaking through the lens of just why we're doing this. One of it is that Missions Month has become more than a month as far as the time frame of the calendar year of which we're celebrating it. And so we're now beginning at the end of September, we're running it through November. And we started playing with that last year because we were noticing was that especially during worship time, there was overcrowding, and we really wanted to give access and opportunity to explore and to share all the work that our missions partners are doing. And then on the flip side, invite our church to think through, discern carefully on how they want to get involved. So part of that is timing, and the other part is maybe more theological in the sense where we don't want to just like figure out ways to do missions, but more importantly, kind of related to your opening question, and that is pay attention to the impact that missions is making in our life, the life of our church, the life of our community, and globally. And then speak into that, speak it specifically into stories, into testimonies, and recognizing the specific work that God is doing, that naming that, celebrating that, and then like we always want to do, figure out ways to resource it. And so that those are some of the reasons. There's more, but of course I want to give that to Greg and Kevin.
Greg?
Well, I would echo some of the things that Mick has shared. I do think having 7 weeks as opposed to just four this year, if we were just doing October, we would only have 4 weeks. The last several Octobers, maybe it wasn't last year, but maybe the year before, we had 5 Sundays. And so having that extra those extra Sundays, I think, helps where we can talk about and share how God is at work around the globe and in Amarillo and give plenty of airtime to all of those ministries and all of those partnerships that we have. I think it also gives us more space internally. I know this year the youth ministry is doing breakfast burritos again. And so those are expensive burritos, folks. I think you want to pay $50 to $100 for each one of those
At least
burritos.
they're that good.
They're
The
top dollar.
children's the children's ministry, they're doing donuts. These are special donuts. I mean, these are like high-end donuts. These
And
are
I'm
at least
curious
20,
who's going to raise more
$25
money,
donuts.
children or youth?
Do
Ooh.
what?
Who's going to raise more money, the kids or the youth? You
That
know,
needs to
I have
be
high
that needs to
expectations.
that needs to be a competition. So I think that lengthens the time where we can celebrate. Missions Month has been one of my favorite times of the year. I really look forward to Missions Impact. I mean, having 7 weeks to talk about what God is doing is going to be powerful. And to have the children involved, the youth ministry involved, the whole community, faith community involved, I think it's going to be good this year.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, from a planning standpoint, it just, trying to, you've got all these different organizations you really want to honor, right? And I just felt like we were just trying to squeeze as much as we could into a Sunday. And I mean, and it really was kind of almost a little mentally exhausting, but because you're just like, okay, I heard them and I heard that, but this is just going to give us a chance to breathe a little bit and to kind of slow down just a little bit. And I'm really excited about that idea.
Yeah,
One more thing I want to add, just because I was thinking about this, is also just kind of behind the scenes, just so folks are aware. We are also wanting to pay attention to the ways where we identify the impact missions makes throughout the calendar year. And so, and not just narrow down missions, though that's important to like, the flags we have in the auditorium or narrow down missions to our specific local and global partners, but also recognize missions from a broader perspective and the mission work that we're doing throughout the year here at Central and also beyond. And so I think what you'll hope to see, at least our commitment, and we're going to be working on this because it's kind of new for us is in worship and other areas, try to provide more access for people to share the impact of God's mission to the world.
yeah. Internally, we know a lot of the good things that are going on. We don't always do a great job of letting everybody else know that. And
Yeah.
I was looking at our list. We have about 20 different mission works. And then there are some other ways that we're involved. So that's a substantial amount of local and global work where we are partnering with God. And those are beautiful things. And we need to share those stories with you guys.
Yeah, so another thing I was going to say is related to that is there are people who do mission work at Central who don't always have the stage or the access to share those stories. And so people could be part of a local board of a nonprofit or be working in some area of nonprofit or be doing something globally. And they just do it because that's what they're committed to, yet it's not necessarily on our piece of paper. And so we're hoping there'll be opportunities for even folks like that to kind of share the work that's happening in their lives.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask this question and I'm going to throw out the first little bit of information and then I'll let y'all jump in. So I'm going to ask what's going to look different this year and what will be the same. So let me speak to the difference with the times. So September 21st is when we're kicking this off, and it's going to go all the way to November 2nd. But like you just said, missions is year round. It doesn't end once we're past November 2nd. But that's the period of time where we will be collecting funds specifically for missions. And the giving for missions for 2026, we're going to end that on November 2nd. Unless you're pledging, and then that continues to come in. But we'd like those amounts so that we can plan going forward. So those dates are one of the big differences. What else do y'all want to share?
Well, you brought up the budget. I think it's important for people to know. We've talked about this a little bit last year, but again, just to kind of say this again, and that is the money you give is committed to missions.
Mhm.
In addition, though, historically speaking, and even this year, there's also more commitment from the budget to missions that goes above and beyond the commitment we make during missions impact. And what I mean by that is let's say, for example, we raise $500,000 this year. Well, we're still committed to additional money of missions because of the commitments we make. And so I think it's important for both our church community and anyone else who knows about Central that a significant part of our budget is specifically towards, for lack of a better word, missions. It's not spent here, it goes out.
So one of the things that we are doing different this year is that we're putting all of our missions together. So Mick talked a little bit about how it used to be where we had missions month and then we had the budget as well. Well, now it's all together. So you're going to hear on Sunday mornings during that missions impact time, you're going to hear about loaves and fishes. You're going to hear about Care Central. You're going to hear about outreach into the community. Those were things in the past that we did not talk about during Missions Month, but this year we will because it's all under one big umbrella.
We published this last year, and I think this is still true, so y'all check me on this, but about 30% of all money that comes in goes outward, right? It goes towards missions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
That's
still
correct.
correct this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty substantial, and that we need to celebrate that as a church. That's a great thing.
Yeah, it's like a bragging point we should make as a church. Like, you can go talk to your friends at other churches and you can rub it in.
And I don't want to get overly technical on this, but that does not include staffing salaries. That is literally funds that come in and then go out. It may be overseas, it may be international, or it may be here locally, but it is not part of our staffing here at the church. So 30% like you're saying, is a substantial amount of money, resources really to just spread the gospel, share God's love, be agents of mercy in the world.
Yeah, and not even to pick it even more apart, but just so people are aware, that's not even including our other ministries, right? Like youth ministry, children's ministry, worship ministry. So, I mean, technically speaking, we can get really specific on defining missions. It's probably even more than 30%. But I think the point is when we think kind of traditionally at central missions, local and globally, yes, 1/3 of our budget goes to that.
But I was even just thinking, just the use of our building, the fact that we keep the lights on,
Right.
right? And we are so free with our facilities, and we have people. I think every day I feel like there's somebody in our building using it that's not necessarily associated with our building, and I cannot tell you how many times we get comments of, "Wow, we appreciate y'all opening your building." And I mean, yeah, that's lights and some air conditioning, but that's part of what we do as well. I mean, yeah, that's in our general budget. That's beyond the 30% that goes out to the other things. And I think that's admirable. And I think we need to remember that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Kevin. Our leadership decided years ago to be generous with our facility. And we are. We do not charge for people to use our facility. And I think it blesses our community. People are in this building all the time. And it's a good thing. But to Kevin's point, it's not included in that 30%. But it is certainly mission focused.
Well, the point of all of that, and that is so worth celebrating, is that all of this is possible because of your generosity. It
Mhm.
is your heart for missions. It is your heart for this church and this city that allows us to be able to do these amazing things. So we're grateful for that, and we're so thankful for your participation in that. So the things that are different are the timeline, and we'll still be asking for kind of a bulk amount during that timeline of missions impact. But then the way the budgeting is handled is going to be a little bit different this year, but still missions, all funds given to missions will go to missions. So what will be the same this year? And Kevin, maybe you can speak into this, how we kind of coordinate with partners for this time.
Yeah, we're reaching out to our local partners and those who are across the world and asking them to participate in some manner. Those who are local, it's just like, okay, we're going to get you on stage. And those who are not, for example, in Colombia, we would love for them to lead us in a call to worship and record that and send it to us so we can see their faces. And so we're still connecting, but we're going to get set. We're going to get a chance to do that over a longer period of time, and I think that's really a nice way to do that. So you'll see some familiar faces. You might see some new faces. We're also asking, we've talked about asking some of our members who are involved in some of these mission areas to come in and share a story, right? And so those impactful moments that uh, they have that this ministry is doing. So I think that'll look similar. Now there will be a little difference where I'm not going to have spider webs this year or doors, but because we're wanting to make this even more so about the life of the church, right? And it's not just about a season or a moment. And so that's the reason we've also changed the name to Missions Impact, right? And so it's gonna because we want these ripples to go beyond just this timeline. So
Um, So let me switch gears a little bit. We had Mark Love. He was our local missions minister, and he retired recently. And he was the one who managed our local missions and outreach. And could you guys tell us a little bit more about that? What are the plans going forward?
Sure. So, and we'll probably make some type of announcement too in the coming weeks. Just because we just want to make sure we keep people posted and all that. And I'm sure there's questions of, are we replacing Mark Love? Are we going to be filling in this staff position? Because we know as a church, especially a church of this size and magnitude, you have all these staff positions, and sometimes they fade away. Sometimes we replace them, and so there's always kind of like, okay, what do we do next? What's next? And so I would say, absolutely, we will, as a leadership in a church, identify and discover a future minister to oversee missions as part of their ministry. I mean, I think that's a central part of Central, and it's necessary. It's a significant piece to the vision, and we think part of what it means to be Jesus Christ is to serve and to do witness and to mission, whether that be at a local or global context. And it would be important for us to have somebody help coordinate and lead that and kind of be the spokesperson on that. Also, somebody to maybe help us, be a liaison for our community partners, work with our partners, and all that kind of thing. So, yes, there is that. But I also want to say it's important to recognize that Mark Love is irreplaceable. right? We're not going to just go out and find another Mark Love. And so with that, we need to think about time, and there is a process, and we just want to make sure we're carefully considering the context of missions today and where Central is today, and then be very methodical and careful on identifying and hiring somebody that we feel can kind of project us to more important work in missions. And so right now, we are in conversations with third-party resources, and we're thinking through that. We know that our current missions partners has some elders and others involved, and I know even some of those volunteers who are involved in that. I think they're looking forward and they're wanting leadership, and we recognize and understand that. And so we're working diligently and doing the best we can to balance work of being proactive, but also recognizing that we need to be paying attention, aware of where missions is today and where we want it to be in the future.
So it is, we'll be moving forward, but it won't be immediate. We
Yeah, I
want
think that's
people to
probably the
know that we
shortest
have not
answer.
forgotten
Yeah.
about that, right?
It's hard to, in a church setting, it's hard to say, like, sometimes an answer is like, well, we're praying about it. We really want God to, like, open up kind of what's next. So that might sound frustrating or slow playing, but that's not it. We really are carefully trying to think through what is missions? What does it look like to do missions? Is it primarily focused on benevolent services and supporting individuals with specific types of needs? Is it working with neighborhoods, or is it planting other churches? I think this is an opportunity for us sometimes when there's a staff transition. There's a few ways to look at it, and we can just simply say, hey, let's just fill in the gaps. But I think we're saying, let's put the brakes on. Maybe there's a catalyst here, and God's speaking something to us and saying, hey, the Holy Spirit's working on your church when it comes to missions, and let's think through that and discover that and join God in that. And so we're definitely, yes, we're moving forward, but not at a fast pace.
So circling back to our first part of this conversation, we were talking about why missions are important. How have we seen God at work in missions? There were a couple mission trips just this summer that we're not that far from. Or there may be other things. What would you like to share about that?
Well, I'll jump in because I was a part of the Columbia mission trip team, which Mick was as well. And that experience was very formative for me to be with the Colombian people, to kind of see what they were doing, how God was at work in that community. So one of the things we did was kind of help them sort of build their church building. I mean, they're in the process of building a church building, and we moved a lot of bricks for a couple days, but we had a hand in building this facility. And one of the things I loved about this facility is that they are building a worship area that can hold about 80, maybe 100, maybe a little more than 100 people, because the intent is they don't want to be just a big 600 member church. They want to be a church that gets to a certain size and then sends out another group of people, like they've already done about a year ago in the city of Bogota, Colombia, and send out another group of people to plant a church. So, this idea of the gospel of sending, they are fully involved in that. And so, God's at work in that church community, building, growing them. And as they grow numerically, He's planting new faith communities in the city of Bogota. That's one of the ways I saw God at work on that Colombia trip.
So one of mine is recently I've had the opportunity to preach with or through at Loaves and Fishes, like little 10-minute little sermons. And that's been fun. So that's been something I've been doing more recently. Maybe part of it's because of the transition with Mark. Maybe it's just because we've created opportunities for various ministers to get involved. But if you've not yet been able to serve or to see the work that's being done on Thursday mornings through Loaves and Fishes, wow, beautiful picture of what the kingdom of God looks like. And so being able to kind of join and be a part of that just briefly for Thursday mornings for just a couple of times already has been a blessing. And so it's neat to be able to be joining in some local missions here at Central.
For me, and I realized that Junior and Patricia have now moved to Florida, but I had been, I think, to Brazil to that church 4 times, I want to think.
Mhm.
And what was great about that is that now you start creating relationships, but also watching the church grow and change. And then also that helped us to shape more, even more so what we were doing. Because I remember the first year we went, it's like, okay, let's paint a hallway, let's do a this. And the last time we went, it's like, let's put together a retreat. Let's get them all in one place and love on each other, have some conversations. And it was powerful. But that mission work took some time to get there, and I think that's a very valuable thing. It's just it's much easier. It's harder work because it's you're getting it's a longer work, but it just seemed very valuable. And then last year I went to the new work that Junior and Patricia are doing, and since we already know them, it was just an easier transition to jump in and okay, what can we do? So I love that.
Let me share another one as well this summer because it's something we used to do a lot of, but we haven't done in some time. Something we probably did a lot of before COVID and since COVID, we just haven't done it in the same way, and that's having an intern at one of our local mission partners. And this summer at the park, Gracie Robertson spent about 15, 20 hours a week getting to know that community, ministering, caring for that community. And at the end of the summer, I mean, Gracie was sharing with me just how much it shaped her, how much it changed her, how much she was blessed by that experience. And so I love this idea that here we have some college students who are back in town for the summer and they jump in and they participate with what God's doing with people who are experiencing homelessness at the park. And I think it was a beautiful thing.
That. Well, and these are just a handful of stories. Again, stick with us through Missions Impact. You'll hear more of this. We also had a trip that went to Kenya this summer, and then our ongoing local things have been happening throughout the year. So we want to share more of that. So the go date for Missions Impact, September 21st. We'll also have several other important dates that we'll be publishing. We'll do a day of prayer and fasting. In conjunction with that day, the children's ministry is also going to do a meal where we will all break the fast together. That's going to be pretty cool. We'll share more about that as it gets closer. If we have your address, you'll receive some of this information in the mail in a week or two. And then if you want more information about missions, you can look at our website, amarillacentral.org/missions. And we'll also be posting social media during Missions Impact. So you can look for us there. So as we sign off, let me remind you of our new vision here at Central, and that is live Jesus together. So let's be mindful of the ways that we can live the way of Jesus through the Spirit together in God's love. See you next time.